Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Bailey, the former Attorney General of Missouri, is now the number 2 at the Federal Bureau of Investigation alongside Dan Bongino. He is there to indict a number of people. He's not there because of the EP files. The EP was a Democratic donor. You can look that up. ABC News has an article from several years back. EP gave money to Hillary Clinton, but 10 grand, 10, 20 grand, something like that. John Kerry, Chuck Schumer. It's not about the EP files. They link to Democrats. Trump had a plane, and if he was anywhere near those files, it would, in 2015, they would have declassified everything and gone after him. They had nothing on Trump, so they had to literally create and fabricate and purchase a Steele dossier. Okay, then they had to ignore the actual intelligence that said Trump was not a Kremlin operative, and then create a myth, a complete Red Scare, McCarthy-era hysteria. This is for indictments, prosecutions. They're going to charge everyone from Hillary Clinton, almost certainly, to James Comey, to John Brennan, possibly Clapper, and others, and a whole bunch of people below them. Andrew Bailey is a former Attorney General. Andrew Bailey understands the law, obviously, the Department of Justice. He has more of a legal background than Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Nothing to do with the EP files. The only reason Democrats and media care about the EP files is because Republicans or Trump Republicans or people who voted for Trump care. That's the only reason Democrats care. It's the only reason. That entire story links to Democrats. He was a Democratic donor where Democrats in New York covered up for him. Even Vox has an article saying how Democrats in New York covered for EP. Anyway, and then CNN, how the Democrats in New York couldn't even find a grand jury to get EP, and how they lowered his specific status. But here, the Trump administration said on Monday that it had tapped Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey to be deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation in what rank and file describes as a surprising arrangement. Okay, Mr. Bailey would join the current deputy director, Dan Bongino, who is a popular right-wing podcast, repeatedly railed against the Bureau and overseeing day-to-day operations of the agency. Here is the person who is now going to be number 2 at the Federal Bureau of Investigation alongside Dan Bongino. What you're getting, ladies and gentlemen, is a guarantee, a promise. Almost certainly, there will be numerous indictments. I've been talking about this for like 9 years, okay? Rome wasn't built in a day. But see, Trump did not commit crimes. He didn't try to overthrow the government. He didn't try to steal 2020 from Biden. Actually, Democrats did that. They kicked him out after he won his primary in 24. They don't even have functioning Democratic primaries. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They cheat Biden. And they try to imprison Trump for cheating Biden, which is hilarious. They make absurd leaps of logic and act in the most brazen, corrupt manner. Okay, Biden literally won the Democratic primary. Then George Clooney wrote an op-ed. Then they kicked Biden to the curb politically. And then they still tried to impeach Trump, saying he tried to steal Biden's victory. He didn't try to steal anything. He went through the courts. And the courts prevented him. Okay, the system worked. And Democrats were still not happy. They tried to imprison him forever. Then they tried to get him on FEC charges, which you'll hear now from Andrew Bailey was complete nonsense. And they try to say he overinflated his net worth. And Deutsche Bank literally defended Trump. The FEC dropped the hush money case. He could have paid Stormy with dollar bills. It wouldn't have mattered. It wasn't an FEC violation. Democrats made absurd leaps of logic. The Supreme Court of the United States of America routinely backs Trump. Routinely. It's now like every other week there's a major victory for President Trump in the Supreme Court. And then Democrats still say he's a tyrant, he's a despot. It's like you're continually on the wrong side of the Constitution and of history, but they still can't get it. Now you have James Comey acting like Alec Baldwin, which is bizarre, frightening, and hilarious at the same time, because he knows almost certainly Andrew Bailey, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi are going to go and indict a number of people. But people, they respond, well, nothing's ever going to happen. It's like, well, Trump did not have an administration loyal to him in his first term. That's why you have imbeciles on the left and even the right. Well, you know, Bill Barr, even a nonpartisan intel assessment, is completely partisan or bipartisan. No, you had never Trump Republicans like Kinzinger and Cheney side with Democrats trying to accuse Trump of everything under the sun, and then they said it was bipartisan. No, you have people who are never Trumpers. Democrats don't have that. They're like AI robots. They walk in lockstep. There are no never Clintons. There are no never Bidens. The never Bidens came out in 3 weeks. He then was kicked aside, and then Harris became the nominee after Biden won his primary. But that's the Democratic primary. That's a complete farce. They don't even have functioning primaries. Anyway, check this out. I'm rambling. Check this out. This is the new deputy attorney. This is the new deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is President Trump basically guaranteeing indictments of Comey, almost certainly Hillary Clinton, Brennan, possibly Clapper, all the low-level people or lower-level people that got caught and fired, McCabe and others. Almost certainly. This is Andrew Bailey is not there because of the EP files. Andrew Bailey is there because of his knowledge of the DOJ, of law, and he's going to go after everyone who's tried to set up and frame Trump. Check this out. They literally purchased a Steele dossier to set up and frame Trump. Imagine if Giuliani and Trump purchased a dossier that said Hillary Clinton or President Obama or Bill Clinton or any other Democrat were in a hotel room getting a certain type of shower. Imagine, would BuzzFeed publish that? I don't think so. Hit subscribe. Check this out.
Well, they bent the law to meet the facts in a specious legal charge. There's an unseemly amount of prosecutorial misconduct. And at the end of the day, what that does is it injects both statutory and constitutional violations.
Now he's talking about the New York prosecutions.
Into the process from the charging document onto the jury deliberations. And so this is a legally errant conviction. It's not a legally valid conviction. And that emphasizes the illicit nature of the witch hunt prosecution. And it's important that the American people understand that the goal here was never to convict President Trump of a crime. It was always to remove him from the campaign trail. Now, this is a presidential candidate that has a right to speak and that we as a people have a right to access. This has done immeasurable damage to our Democratic Republic, and we've got to hold wrongdoers accountable.
Let's focus on this Matthew Colangelo, Alvin Bragg dichotomy here at A.G. Bailey, because the number 3 starter right now in the Yankees rotation is not waving his hand and saying, please send me to single A so I can ply my craft. What possible reason could Matthew Colangelo, the number 3 at the Department of Justice, have to leave the DOJ, go down to the Manhattan DA, if not for his desire to help the Democrats and get Trump?
Yeah, the DOJ may not have intervened to reassert the jurisdiction of the FEC. That's the appropriate legal avenue for the DOJ. But instead what they did was deploy resources to the state of New York in the form of Matthew Colangelo, like you said, the former third-ranking official in Biden's Department of Justice who led the trial court prosecution against President Trump on behalf of Alvin Bragg. So he takes a pay cut to go work in state court. He's politically motivated. Those prosecutors should have been disqualified from prosecuting that case. There was no case to begin with. A subsequent prosecutor that the court could have appointed would have identified that and dismissed it before it got this far. And again, Biden is behind this whole thing. I mean, he has managed the Department of Justice that all.
So, for example, when they impanel grand juries or a jury for a trial of Hillary Clinton or of Comey or others, they're not going to ask the same questions that the New York justice system asked. Well, do you watch CNN? Well, that's nonpartisan. Oh, okay, you can be on the jury. CNN to Andrew Bailey or MSNBC or even the New York Times will be viewed as partisan. These are all, of course, partisan publications or news stations. They're not, nonpartisan. So they literally allowed people on the jury in New York and in D.C. When they ask the questions, do you watch, what news sources do you watch pertaining to Trump? Oh, CNN, MSNBC. Oh, that's okay. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, right? If it was Fox News, it'd be like, pro-Trump. So that is not going to be allowed, for example, almost certainly not allowed by Andrew Bailey or by Pam Bondi. There's a lot of other ways to ensure that, legally people are held accountable. If a person set up and framed Trump with a dossier literally purchased by Hillary Clinton, okay, imagine if Trump and Giuliani purchased the dossier. Just imagine this. Imagine if Trump and Giuliani purchased a dossier that said that Clinton or Biden or Harris or President Obama were in a Moscow hotel room with a certain type of shower. Okay, the Democrats and media would never allow that. in a million years. But with Trump, they broke every norm and standard and rule in the book. Hit subscribe to the channel. This is huge, people. Andrew Bailey is like Cash Patel, Dan Bongino times 10.